Hello everyone, a very warm greetings from Level Up. Myself Paresh Sharma, and today we have with us Miss Gayatri Magi, a certified trainer. She is an assistant professor at Thakur Global Business School with a strong background in education with a PhD in philosophy and communication. We are really very honored to have you for Level Up's Open Tech series, where you will be highlighting the topic of communication skills for early tech professionals. Let's begin.
Thank you so much, Paresh. Let us begin with the session. Let's share my screen. Okay, is it visible?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so firstly, thank you for having me here. And the topic for the today's session is from fear to clarity. Now, there is one thing that I always mention at the beginning of all my sessions, and that is the effective communication isn't a destination to arrive at. It is a lifelong journey of learning and applying. And mind you, the very significant word out here is applying. So, all techies in the house, I'm sure and I'm just choosing my words wisely here, when you are coding your programs, the program gets executed only when it is applied. Okay, only when it is executed, when it is the program is run, to be specific, right? What happens, that run aspect here in communication is application, right? If you think that sitting in a classroom listening to about communication in theory, because it sounds so fancy, it sounds so good, that you feel very motivated in that moment when you are listening to all of this knowledge from any speaker for that matter. But the learning lies in applying the knowledge that you have learned in the class, specifically of communication. Why? Because it puts you in uncomfortable situations. The kind of experiences you gain from each situation, you take feedbacks from those situations, and that is how slowly and gradually you become an effective communicator and a public speaker. Okay, with this, let us move forward. So, yes, with all the technical skills that you are learning in the classroom, to have an effective communication skill is what will result in a sustainable career growth. When I talk about sustainable career growth, it also means exponential career growth, which is very significant, because this sustainable career growth, it requires visibility, and that visibility you will get through communication. Because you could ace at quants, you could ace at everything technical that your domain teaches you, which is specific to your domain. But if you can't share those ideas in a manner which your audience understands in, then it has no effect. So that is, it doesn't have to be very fancy. Again, it has to be very simple. You just have to understand some core ideas which we are going to tap on in this presentation. And with that, when you keep applying it for all your presentations and all your decks that you will be pitching, I think you would be good to go by the time you enter the industry. So, yes, why do many engineers find public speaking challenging? And this is specifically for y'all, but let me tell you, there are many other students, there are many other people. I know people even from the CXO positions who find public speaking very challenging. It is a challenge for them to engage, say, an audience of 200, even when their content, their knowledge is super strong. So this is one of the first 10 phobias as stated by some article, which I don't remember as of now. But it is something which not everyone is comfortable with. But public speaking, can we work on it? Certainly, yes. Right? So just let us go through the pointers and I'll help you understand what they mean. The first one being trained to focus on accuracy and not storytelling. Now, this is a problem everywhere. It could be a financial service company, it could be so marketing. I would say that there is a lot of narrative building, but when you talk about domain such as finance or a domain such as yours, what happens is we are so focused on the outcome, the empirical evidences. We are so focused on the technicals of it that when we are actually sharing about the technicals, we do not focus on the narrative, we do not focus on storytelling. And storytelling, my friend, is something which is very important. It is no longer even a skill, it's an art. If you can share your numbers, if you can share your ideas, if you can share your outcomes with an entire narrative which gives an entire build up, then let me tell you that that particular negotiation is going to be yours. That particular deal is going to be yours. That particular presentation that you're giving in the class, I'm sure you will be scoring the highest. Because understand the audience. You first have to understand the audience. Even you are students, for faculty members you are an audience. Now understand, and this you can actually relate very well, that we all love listening to examples and stories, because that's when our focus is. We think in pictures. So what happens is the entire imagination, that entire story is formed in front of you, right? And that is why storytelling is very important, because it helps you visualize the data that you are sharing. Okay, now that helps the audience understand it better. The audience can be anyone for that matter. So you will have to first analyze your audience, and then you will have to apply the storytelling technique. Second, which is fear of being judged or making mistakes. Now, let me give you a fact here. You will be judged and you will make mistakes. Because what happens is judgment is even the first thing, and it's a very, it's deeply rooted in your subconscious. So if there is any person who even walks into the room, the very first thing that you are doing subconsciously is judge that person, just probably by their look, or probably by the way they are groomed, or probably by the way they entered the room. Now what happens here is you are quickly analyzing that whether I should be speaking to this person, should I be listening to this person. Now all of this can create, it's a loop, all of this can create a sense of fear within you, that I will be judged for it. Your fear will not go away, but your fear will turn to calm and excitement the day you accept that, yes, I am going to be judged. And let me give my best so that this opinion they have about me is changed. That should be something which goes on running in your mind, right? Or making mistakes. See, there's one hack, and the hack is to tell your mind that the audience knows nothing. The audience doesn't know what I am to speak about, what I am to share. And when you do that, you see, you are certainly going to make mistakes, but you have to make mistakes in a very graceful manner so that the audience doesn't understand. Now making graceful mistakes as well comes from a lot of practice, because you know how to cover it up now. So you're not giving a wrong information, but you know how to cover it up so that the audience is not fixated on the mistake that you made. Because again, understand a human psychology, we always tend to look at the negatives first. Okay, and we are not to be blamed, it is the environment that we are in. So that is why it is very important that we try to tweak in, we try to work well with the mistakes that we are going to make. And for that, it is very important that number one, we practice very seamlessly and we practice consistently. That actually reduces the probability of you making a mistake. Okay, let's move on. The next is overloading slides with technical details. For most of the people, their brain shuts the moment they see numbers, when they see a lot of technical details going on in the deck. So it is very important that when it comes to a deck, when it comes to a presentation, if you're pitching to say a client, or even if it is an in-class presentation, it is very important that only that data comes in to your presentation which is very relevant and it has a strong impact on the presentation, right? Now, moving on, and I'll tell this, we'll deal with this in the later slides, in the coming slides. The next is assuming the audience already understands. Because what happens is you will find most of your audience is nodding. Okay, if not nodding, they are going to look at you very seriously into your eye, uh, actually showcasing to you about point number 2, that they are judging you, which they might be. But what happens is, when you are in such a situation, you're continuously looking at your audience, you're trying to take feedback, your brain is actually trying to take feedback. What happens here is you try to skip points. Why? Because you think, okay, probably they're nodding, probably their body language shows that they know it already, so let me just skip this point. But that is certainly not what you should be doing. If you feel that this has a strong impact on my presentation, and the kind of pitching that I'm doing, the kind of presentation that I'm doing, the kind of narrative that I'm trying to build, you should go ahead with it. So never assume that the audience knows. You shouldn't be assuming for anything ever, but specifically for your presentations, please do not get into that mode that the audience may know, because it can be that they do not know that particular point, and now you have created a gap in their mind. So just make sure when you're going there, you should know what is the 100% that I want to give. What is your 100%? And always end up giving that. Okay. Now, the golden rule of presentation. So your slides are there to support you. They are not there to replace you. Okay. Now, what do I mean by it? So if I say, if I had to quote a percentage here, I would say that almost 90% of the presenters read the slides. So they will have a very heavily loaded slide, and they'll make sure that they're reading through it. So one, what I'm doing, I am not having a connect with my audience, because I'm just busy looking at the presentation, and I'm busy just reading what's there in the slide, thinking that they may understand. That is not the point. If they had to read the slide, then you might as well mail them the slide, right? Mail them the presentation. So that's a strict, that's 100% no. Okay, reading of the slides. Now what do? Your slides are just there to support you. Your slide, the data on your slide is just for your cue. What do you mean by your cue? It's just to remind you that, okay, this is the pointer that I need to explain. So you have a look at it, and then you know what you are going to explain. So this is what I'm doing currently. I am looking at the pointer, but then I'm looking at the camera and I am speaking to you. I'm trying to explain it to you. So there's this another thing about presentation. It is not about giving information. I'm talking about this from the public speaking perspective. It's not about giving a passage of information. It is about conversing with the audience. So observe how you converse with people, say in a group discussion, say when you are speaking one to one with someone. That is exactly the same thing you have to do when you are speaking with a mass, when you're speaking with an audience which is, say, more than five, more than 10. So once you start conversing with them, you start speaking in that tonality, the entire game changes here when it comes from the public speaking and presentation perspective. So one, your pointer is giving you a cue of what I have to explain, and explain in a way that you are conversing with the audience. So yes, slides support the speaker, explain and tell a story. Now, slides should show key visuals and words. The speaker brings them to life with explanation. Let me read that again for you. Slides should show key visuals and words. The speaker brings them to life with explanation. That's exactly what I've told you a while back, right? Now, when you are putting in information, when you're putting in data into your presentation, you try to use animations in the form of visuals. See, visuals are something which the audience quickly connects to. Since I told you that the human brain, we think in pictures. So when you show them a picture, when you show them, say, a graph or something in a tabular form, say a pie chart or something, what happens out here is they easily start grasping and understanding what you're trying to tell them. Now, this backed with your narrative, your storytelling, it's going to be a bomb, right? and you will actually come out with flying colors. So it definitely is a win-win situation for you and for the audience, right? Because understand one thing, when we speak about giving a presentation, when you speak about delivering a session, please tattoo it somewhere that it is about contributing, that I stand here, even if it is for marks, be it for anything, it could be to get a client. Okay, but whenever you are standing in that place of being a presenter, you have to know that I am here to contribute. And when you start thinking from that aspect, the kind of delivery that you do is very different. That my audience has to understand, they have to get influenced by what I am trying to tell them, because I am here to empower them about a specific thing. Like I am here to contribute, so that there's at least a 10% shift in your presentation skills, right? So it is very important that you keep all of these pointers in your mind. Next, slides are prompts. They are not scripts. Just like I told you, they are cues. When you look at them, you get to know, okay, this is what I need to speak and elaborate on. For that, practice is needed, right? So the speaker adds meaning and story to that particular pointer. Next, let slides guide the message, not replace the speaker. Because what happens is when you're continuously reading through it, your your significance, you as a speaker, your significance suddenly becomes zero. The audience now no longer, they don't no longer need you now. Why? Because you are reading, and what happens in the process is they too start reading the slide, so you become sidelined because they get to know that, okay, this particular person is not contributing here, there's nothing new that I'm getting to know, I might as well just read. So your existence there as a speaker diminishes, and so does the opportunity and the marks, right? So let us move on. So, yes, pitch deck thinking. Explain what matters. So, these are the following questions that you need to ask when you are preparing your pitch, you are preparing your deck, you are working on your presentation. What problem are you solving? What is it? What is that gap that that audience is facing, for which you have been given that topic, you have been given that session, and what is it that through my session, what is that problem that will be solved through my session, what is that gap that will be addressed, and what is it that will benefit my audience. So this is a very important question that you need to ask to yourself right before you are forming your presentation. See, we all have AI right now, right? We can all go and we can get in explanation, we can get in the entire session, how am I going to deliver all of these things. But there are certain things which are very human centric. Now, for that, you need to sit with yourself and you need to contemplate with yourself, right? So, the very first thing you do when you start making your script, when you start making your content for the presentation, is to ask, what is that problem that I'm trying to solve here, right? Why is it important now? What is the relevance now? Why is this happening? Okay, so you need to understand this particular aspect because it will help you build your content in that manner. Now, what is your solution? I'm sure you will research on this and you will build what is the most optimal solution, most realistic solution to this problem that I am catering to. Next is what makes it better or different. So it is not new to you what I just explained. It is how I explain things. I'm sure there are people, there would be other facilitators who would have told you that it's important to look into the eye of the audience when you are when you're speaking. Gaze is important, your pitch is important, your tonality is important. Every other public speaker, every other um, mentor or a motivational speaker is going to tell you that, a corporate trainer is going to tell you the same thing. Okay, all of these things are going to happen, the theory is the same. But when I speak about tonality specifically, how do I explain it in a manner that it reaches my audience, it influences my audience to a level where they start implementing it, so that it starts benefiting them, because I know for a fact that it benefits them. So you will have to start thinking about it in that manner, that what makes it better and what makes it different. How does my solution, the solution that I'm providing, how is it different, or how am I putting it in a very different manner so that it benefits my audience, right? And then what is the overall outcome of this, right? You will have to know that. Why? Because there are many public speakers. You can look out into the industry as well. Some of them are all over the news. You can look at this particular arena and you can understand that some of them voice their voice their opinions, or they use their freedom of speech only to, say, trigger a certain audience, only to make matters more worse. And and it doesn't help solve a problem, it doesn't create harmony, it creates a barrier, it breaks things up, right? So what happens out here is the outcome is negative. So your idea of an outcome should be very clear. What am I trying to do here? So even if I'm trying to break, is it a strategy? Is it something that I'm trying to do? Is it ethical? So you will always have to ask yourself these questions. Okay. And then one of the most important things is your presence, your entire presence. I'm not talking only about your physical being, I'm talking about your entire being together. Because you could be dressed in the most amazing formal attire, and yet your presence can show that you're very nervous. So your presence has a lot to do with your physical self and also your non-physical self. That is what presence is. Okay. Then your voice, how are you using your voice? We all have a natural voice, and people listen to us basis their capacity. Okay, so how I am sounding to you right now is probably very different to how I am sounding to myself. And that is for every other person. And how I may speak in a personal setup, how my voice is in a personal setup could be different when I would be delivering a session, or when I would be conducting a meditative session. It would have more depth. My pitch would be low. So that is what voice modulation is. And that is what you need to know. So you could have a very high pitch. You could have a pitch where you can address to, say, an audience of 100 people without using a mic. But if you're sitting in a boardroom, say with only 10 people, do you need that kind of a pitch? No. So you'll have to work on your voice. But do you need a deeper voice that time? Yes. So speak from your navel area. Okay, so when you start speaking from your navel area, what happens? Your voice has that heaviness, it has that seriousness, and that seriousness shows the other person that this person knows. And that is what that is something that we want, right? And your body language. Your body language speaks tons and tons for you. So it's going to be one of the most significant things, right? So you may say that I want people to accept me the way I am. Certainly, why not? But only after you make a place for yourself in the industry, okay, or wherever you want to. Before that, you will have to be conscious, you will have to be aware about how you carry yourself, right? So, first, yes, get comfortable in your designated presentation space. And this is what all politicians do, all successful speakers do. They may not get onto the podium, they will not go in for a press conference, they will not sit on that podium and directly start addressing to the journalists or to the reporters. That's not certainly what they'll do. Once they go there, they get comfortable with the space. It could be through arranging a pen, arranging a mic, just looking around, gazing, and just giving a smile to the journalists or the reporters out there, or any kind of audience, or probably just having a very short conversation probably with the assistant out there. But what they're trying to do indirectly is becoming comfortable in that space. And once they are comfortable in that space, that's when they start speaking. Because if you are not comfortable right before you want to address something, your body feels very nervous, you feel very nervous. Okay, so when you become comfortable in that space, your nervousness comes down. So how you speak in a comfortable space is different from how you speak in an uncomfortable space. So yes, nervous speakers, they rush, they speak very quickly. You may even experience it in interviews when they tell you, tell me about yourself. My name is Gayatri Magi. I've done my qualifications and this, and I have some extracurricular activities to me. Your pace increases, right? But a confident speaker will speak at a very slow pace, not a very very slow pace, but it's at a at a very modest level, and that shows confidence. That reflects confidence. Sorry. The next is pause instead of saying or or and or okay or basically or there are so many things, right? So you need to pause. That's a skill that you will have to understand, that when you do not know what's the next thing that I'm going to say, it's okay to pause. And pause even at impactful levels where you feel that this sentence that I made, it's going to have an impact. So pause there. So when you pause there, what happens is the audience takes time to absorb it, and then they realize the impact. And what will follow post that is probably a clap, okay, or some deep insight. So there's going to be a lot of nodding there, right? Now, sit or stand straight and your shoulders have to be expanded. That's what you call as a power pose. Power pose is something what a it's like a Superman pose. Okay, so you take up that pose before your session begins. So what happens is it gets in a lot of confidence within you when you go up on the stage or the podium to present. Okay, so always make sure that you're not slouched, but you have an expanded shoulder, and keep your hands visible. It has to flow. Do not do this. This shows a very autocratic kind of a speaker, very dominant speaker. You might as well have the tips of your fingers, okay, just briefly touching each other, and make sure that your hand movements are very flowy, right? Now, confidence is not I know everything. It is I can explain what I know clearly. You can't know everything. I do not know everything about public speaking. There's so many things that even I am learning. So, what I know it to the core. But what I do not know, be humble enough to accept that I do not know this. Okay. And be confident enough. That actually radiates. That is the non physical part of you that radiates. That is what presence is. And I'll just take you through this briefly. Handling nervousness. Now, here we have said deep breath before starting, but it can be different for different people. For example, for me, it is walking backstage. I enjoy walking backstage because that helps me calm down. Okay, just sitting in one place, I become very restless. So there are some other speakers, I think Raj Shamani for that matter, I think he does certain push-ups backstage, and many other such speakers, they will do push-ups backstage. Somebody else would have a power pose. Somebody else, I think Jay Shetty, he chooses to do deep breaths. So you got to choose what works better for you, right? Now focus on explaining, not impressing, because people are going to judge. That is a fact that we have tattooed in our head, right? Mental script. You have to know mentally what I am here to speak. What is the next statement that I want to make? What is it that I'm here to communicate? You need to have your mental script ready. Okay. And the three C's, the three rules out here is your idea has to be very clear. You have to know what I am here to deliver. Okay. Your slides have to be concise and your delivery should radiate and resonate with confidence. Okay. And that's all from my side. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for explaining us the importance of communication, which will definitely help the beginners for the future goals. We are really thankful that you delivered a very positive and very insightful session for Open Text Level Up. We are really looking forward for more collaborative sessions